Alright guys, following up that last video about the Street Fighter thing, but before I get into that, I was shocked. I'm surprised that video got more attention than I thought it would. And I love how, oh god, all the haters trying to argue, of course, as you saw, they use cliche terms like you're seething or you're molding. Molding, Jesus fucking Christ. I can't keep up with all these weird terms people use, like, you're not capable of obviously having a real conversation, so I know I fucking beat you. Done. But to comment, because someone commented about the Ryu thing that I was talking about, and I've talked about this before, and the person was saying that, oh, well, you know, making Ryu have a struggling with the dark side in the prequel games is an excuse to spice up the character, personality-wise. And he didn't need to be spiced up. Ryu is Street Fighter 2, the World Warrior. Ryu is the World Warrior. Ryu is the story of Street Fighter. Retconning his story, I've said this before, ruins the entire story of Street Fighter. It doesn't make any sense. Okay? I made a video about this going over this before. Ryu is the whisper of a hero originally in the story. He's that ideal, that idea that maybe some people say he's basic and boring, but he's that ideal of a person that they did train their whole lives and they became the best, okay? He devoted himself to a cause and he succeeded in the cause, and he is only trying to find someone who can actually beat him to improve himself more. He's the idea that he beat Sagat, the guy who thought that he was the strongest guy in the world. And he not only beat this guy who thought he was the strongest in the world, he humbled him. And he left a scar on his chest that reminds him that he was too cocky. He thought he's the best. He's like a life story. I'm making this more deep than it needs to be, but you can take it that deep if you want, right? You know what I mean? That's the whole reason why Sagat has no purpose in the Street Fighter story anymore, because if you retcon the story to how it is now, that Ryu is just a character that is struggling with this evil side, he didn't legitimately beat Sagat. He cheap-shotted Sagat to beat him after he already lost. So then, what happened at this world tournament where some kid came, he lost in the tournament, and he cheap-shotted the champion? Ryu sucks. Ryu's a terrible person. The crowd would have been terrible. The crowd would have like booed him for that. He's not a good person, right? Why does Sagat care if he still won the Street Fighter 1 tournament and then some asshole just cheap-shotted him after, and to the point that he left a scar on his chest, right? There's no reason to learn the Dragon Punch. Ryu is the ideal of a hero, the whisper of a hero, that there's always someone better than you, so you can't get cocky, right? Why does M. Bison want Ryu's body? Ryu's not that strong. Ryu doesn't have legitimate victories over characters anymore. He just gets grumpy and he throws a fireball. Why doesn't M. Bison want Ken? Ken, storyline-wise, still beats people while being rich and not giving a fuck. Just randomly enters tournaments and wins. Ryu is actually irrelevant in the story if you think about it. He's not a main character. He's not a hero. All these other characters that are correlated with him, their storylines with him don't actually make any sense because he's a whiny crybaby who has some evil side that he's struggling with. What? I mean, the storyline of Street Fighter is just so stupid now. Remember Goken in Street Fighter 4 when he woke up? Oh, Akuma didn't kill me. I was just sleeping for a long time. Okay, so why the fuck does Ryu care? Why does Ken care? You were just sleeping. You took too many sleeping pills. Well, like, what the fuck, dude? Why, why does Akuma want to beat Ryu? You're telling me Akuma cares about some fucking guy that loses to everybody unless he gets grumpy and throws a fireball? It doesn't make any sense. What does make sense is two dudes, Akuma and, Ryu, going off on their own path. Akuma uses a style that can kill people of their, martial art. Ryu uses a style that doesn't kill people, you know what I mean? And Ryu is becoming this whisper of a hero. Ryu is becoming this whisper of the world warrior who is the strongest person. I said before, Ryu should actually be the last boss of Street Fighter 3. He's the ideal, the whisper of a hero that you can't get too cocky, right? He left a scar on Sagat's chest. Now Sagat had to learn the tiger uppercut. That's go look it up. That was originally Sagat's story. He had to teach himself the tiger uppercut because no one had ever seen a move like the dragon punch before. They weren't prepared for it. They should have done something in the storyline like Akuma finally fights Ryu. You know what I mean? Akuma has all these versions of his martial art, you know what I mean, that can technically kill people if he hits you. And Ryu has all these techniques that, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, Akuma, I have this fireball. If this fireball hits you, it's going to kill you, Ryu. Blah, blah, blah. I'm grumpy. You know what I mean? And Ryu is like, you know what? You have all these fireballs, but guess what? I have like different versions of this fireball. I have, you know, mastered, you know, put new spins on these techniques. I have an electric fireball. I don't give a fuck if it hits you or not, because if it blocks you, Akuma, you can't even block my fireball because it's going to stun you. You're going to become electrocuted. Put in some weird anime story. They could have done some weird fight with it. Akuma's like, your fireball's not strong enough to hurt me. I can block it. Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, what the fuck? I can't block your fireball because you've learned like elemental skills with it. You know what I mean? They could have done, I mean, think about it. They could have done some bullshit like that. You know what I mean? The Shin Shoryuken, right? You know what I mean? Akuma's like, oh, you have the dragon punch, you know what I mean? But you don't use a killing version of it. And Ryu's like, I'm not going to kill you with this move. I just have a dragon punch that is so strong, it's going to knock you the fuck out. And you're going to wake up, and I'm not even going to be there for you to get mad. That is Ryu. Akuma's like, my fireballs, they're going to kill you if it hits you. Ryu's like, I don't even need to hit you clean. You can block my fireball, and I got elemental fireballs. It's going to catch your ass on fire. It's going to electrocute you. You're stunned. I walked up right into you where you're like, blah, 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 blah. You got rigor mortis going on. Rigor mortis fireball. And then Ryu walks up, and guess what? He's like, I'm going to hit you. And like, Akuma, he's like paralyzed. You know what I mean? And Ryu walks up to him, and he's like, yo, guess what, motherfucker? I'm about to uppercut you right in your fucking junk. It's not going to kill you. And by the time that you finally wake up, I'm already going to be walking on to the next country, right? Ryu hits him with the Shin Shoryuken, right? I mean, Akuma's just like, he's just done. Ryu is already in the other country. That should be Ryu. The whisper of a hero, the ideal. Akuma thought he was the strongest guy ever. I have the killing form of this martial art. And Ryu's like, guess what? I didn't kill you. I left you there so you can like live with that defeat, just like I left Sagat. You know what I mean? And he leaves to the other country. Ryu, that is the story of Ryu. Some people say it's basic. Ryu doesn't need to have an evil side of him. That's not the idea of Ryu. You know what I mean? The only similar thing about Ryu in his storyline now is he's a guy that has devoted himself to training. But guess what? He's a guy that has devoted himself his entire life to training, and he's never achieved anything. Ryu is actually pathetic in the story. Imagine devoting your entire life to something and you just get mad whenever you lose and you throw a fireball at somebody when they're not expecting it. So it didn't spice up Ryu's personality or anything like that. It made him terrible. You've taken a character that could have been the ideal character, you know what I mean, a heroic character, and you've turned him into a generic whiny crybaby. Anyway, I gotta talk about the other shit, but remember, if you like videos, like, sub, so the comment, share, support the channel if you want. I appreciate it. Thanks. The end.